How's it everyone, this is Lolcohol, and in today's video I'm going to be going over the Seismic Trap Saboteur. Now this build is pretty much in its final form. There's still some places where we could improve the gear and min-max and make it even better, but I've done all the content. I've killed Maven, I've done Sirus 9, I've killed all. I can go up to about wave 25 in Simulacrum very consistently. I've done Blight Ravage maps, I've delved to like depth 250, so at this point I feel like the build is in a state where anything more is just kind of overkill. So we can quickly go over my current setup, and then after that I'll answer some of the more frequently asked questions that I've had about this build. So let's look at the gear. First off, I'm using currently one cold iron point, and this is just a choice that I've made. If you are playing this build, I'd probably recommend 2 cold iron points, but I've been very interested in defenses and things like that lately, so I decided to use a shield. So the shield I have is just very high ES. This one has 420 energy shield with a bunch of resistances and spell suppression. I just made this by using dense fossils, very straightforward. I got a bit lucky, but I did use about 100 before I hit this. As for the cold iron point, if you can get one with the Scourge mod's global physical damage or flat physical damage to spells, or the best possible one you could get would be +1 level of all physical spell skill gems. Those are all really good Scourge mods, but this is the one that I got. As for the gloves, these are just basic trapper gloves. I have a video where I made something similar to this. However, in that video, I rolled advanced traps. And now what I realized after using that is that you need to roll for either trap or trap and mine damage. If you get advanced traps, it just doesn't feel good. So the reason we use these trap gloves is so that we can stop using Deerstalker, and I've got my Exsanguinate set up in here, and we've got Exsanguinate plus the traps, chain, and trap. If you get the trap support, you're going to swap out trap for trap and mine damage, and if you have trap and mine damage, you'll use trap support. So these are the gloves. I made these just by getting an I-80 shaper base and hitting it with some essences that I had lying around until I got something decent. So pretty straightforward. As for the boots, I have Atziri Step. Now, you could replace these if you rolled some really nice boots with spell suppression and some other stuff. However, something I need to point out is the enchant. So, chance to avoid being stunned if you've killed recently. The problem with trap builds and mine builds is that pretty much none of the kills you have count toward being you, right? The trap is killing things, not you. It's weird. It's just PoE technicality. So if you're going to get an enchant like this, don't think it's going to work, because unless you're killing with something else, well, then this is never actually going to be in effect. But the main reason we're using Atziri Step is just for the very high spell suppression and the movement speed and the very high evasion rating. So these are pretty good boots. They cost about 40-ish chaos the last time I checked. As for the belt, just life and resistances and crafted trap throwing speed. Trap throwing speed scales how quickly our seismic trap pulses. So the more trap throwing speed we have, the better. So I'm using that. As for the armor, I know a lot of people have asked about this. What's better, Carcass Jack or Tinkerskin? I feel like after playing with a lot of Tinkerskin and a lot of Carcass Jack, I think I prefer Carcass Jack overall. Just quite a bit more damage. The AoE is great. So if we look at the Tinkerskin, one nice benefit about it is the cooldown recovery rate for throwing traps. However, chance to gain phasing doesn't really matter because we're using a phasing flask, and recovering life and energy shield, that's nice. That's nice for mapping, I would say. And the chance to gain a frenzy charge, we also don't really need that because we get that on the skill tree over here. So those are kind of two mods that don't really matter that much. However, for general mapping, once again, it's a great thing. It's got a bit more ES, it's got a bit more evasion compared to Carcass Jack, but after playing with both, I've decided I prefer Carcass Jack. But if you have a Tinkerskin, don't feel bad. Don't feel like, oh, I need to get a Carcass Jack ASAP. Tinkerskin is still excellent. One thing I must point out in terms of the corruption on this, I've got trap and mind damage on this. However, on my previous Tinkerskin, I had +2 level of socketed duration gems. So you'll see here, Seismic Trap has the duration tag. So you can actually get +2 levels on your Seismic Trap from a +2 duration corruption, which I promise you is about 5 times cheaper than the +2 trap and mind damage gems on Tinkerskin, last time I checked at least. So, I mean, I got this one for about 4x, and I'm happy with it. As for the rings, this is life, resistances, and critical strike multiplier, and same on this one, crit multi, life, and resistances. Now, I made these by using some essences. I used the Shrieking Essence of Scorn on a ring. You can get crit multi by just hitting it with a bunch of Essences of Scorn. I believe these are about 1 chaos each, maybe 2 chaos in bulk, and you can just hit your ring. I believe also Warlord. Yeah, I think Warlord influence rings can also hit crit multi, so you could just get a Warlord ring and then try get crit multi on it like that, but that's how I did it. I used a Shaper base because I was hoping to get crit chance and crit multi, but these are my rings: life, resistances, crit multi, and the amulet. This is just a +2 amulet. I have a video where I made this, so check the link on the screen if you want to know how to make this, but +2 level of Seismic Trap adds a ton of damage. So our Seismic Trap is sitting at level 28 with another Cold Iron Point. It's at level 31, and this leads to some pretty damn good damage. So yeah, if you can get one of these, make yourself one. Again, check the video, linked in the description where I make this. Helmet, Crown of the Inward Eye. This is a great starter helmet, I would say, but I feel like you could get something a lot better, something with like physical damage to spells on the Elder base, or nearby enemies have -9 physical damage resistance. Those are great mods. Also, as for the enchant, the Seismic Trap does an additional pulse. That is the best Seismic Trap enchant. However, I just got this one because it's all I could find at the time, and I didn't really need to upgrade. So that's all of the gear. Looking at the links, I know this is something a lot of people have asked about because they say, where do I put my gems and things? So the most important things, just make sure your Seismic Trap is 6 linked, and I've got Seismic Trap, Life Tap. This means we use life to cast the spell instead of mana, which means we can reserve most of our mana. Trap and mind damage support. Awakened Brutality, you can just use normal Brutality if you can't afford this. Increased crit, and advanced traps. This is the most important 6-thing setup. As for your Exsanguinate, we've got Exsanguinate, Cluster Traps, Chain, Trap support, and then in the gloves itself, trap and mind damage. However, if you are using Deerstalker boots, you'll just swap out the trap support for a trap and mind damage. So in our helmet, this is the other 4-link that I'm using that's important, but we've got Flame Dash, Life Tap, again, just so that we can always use our life instead of mana to cast that, and faster casting. So we just are able to Flame Dash a little bit more quickly. And then also, I'm using Void Sphere. This is completely optional. You don't need to use this, but I kind of just love this skill on most builds that I play. So I've got that linked in here. Again, I've linked it with Life Tap so that it costs 138 life instead of 138 mana that I don't actually have. And this is just to kind of keep monsters away from you in Scourge or Simulacrums or Harvest or whatever. It's a personal thing. You don't have to use it. As for what's in my shield, I've got Steelskin on my left click, Enduring Cry. This is also an optional thing, but I've been using Enduring Cry just to generate some endurance charges. Scourge is scary and rippy. Monsters run at you, and if I hit this button and there's a bunch of monsters around me or a boss, I get 3 endurance charges. Again, optional. You don't have to use it, but I am. And then Assassin's Mark. This we use on bosses, and it causes them to take more damage and also generate power charges for us. So that's the shield. As for the Cold Iron Point, I've got my auras, I've got Grace, Defiance Banner. You can use War Banner instead of Defiance Banner if you prefer to be more offensive instead of defensive, and Pride. And again, these links, these don't exactly matter. These don't really need to be linked with anything specific. So if you've got a slightly different setup, don't worry about it. It doesn't really matter. The only ones that really matter are going to be the first 3 that I showed you. In my boots, I've got Skitterbots, Bear Trap, Precision, and Culling Strike. So the only links that matter in this are Bear Trap and Culling Strike. These 2, again, could be anywhere else in your gear. And that's pretty much it for the gems, but we can also look at the flasks. I'm using a Frightened Divine Life Flask of Allaying. This is just an instant recovery flask with Corrupted Blood immunity and Bleeding immunity. You don't actually need this. I should re-roll this because I get Corrupted Blood and Bleeding immunity from my Steel Skin, but I've been lazy and I haven't updated that. I would probably get something like Curse Reduction or maybe, I don't know, just not this. If you're using Steel Skin and you've got Corrupted Blood immunity, you don't really need that. It's kind of a wasted suffix. As for my other flask, I've got a Diamond Flask with reduced effect of Chill. I know some of you are going to be saying, you get freeze immunity from Soul of the Brine King. This gives you freeze immunity. It doesn't give you chill immunity. However, if you can kill Poporo, the highest spire, something that I should do, then this frees up yet another suffix. And this would pretty much make me immune to chill as well. So that's why I'm using this currently, but I should go update that. And as for the next flask, we've got a Quartz Flask, just for phasing and spell suppression. Also, Quicksilver Flask with movement speed and charge recovery. The enchant is used when charges reach full. And then I've got a Granite Flask for a bit of armor. And the way this one works, this is a trick that Ziggy figured out, is gain 3 charges when you're hit by an enemy, and also increase armor during effect. And the enchant is used when Flask charges reach full. So this is like a self-perpetuating, refilling flask. You're constantly getting hit in PoE. So you get hit, the charges go up, it gets used, it kind of cycles. If you want to see Ziggy D's video, I'll link it, and he displays how it works there. While we've got the Pantheon thing open, another thing everyone asks is, which Pantheons do I use? Well, I'm using Soul of the Brine King. I really need to update the last 3 and actually kill those bosses. And then I'm using Soul of Gruthkul for more physical damage reduction. I was using Soul of Shikari for a while for reduced effects of poison. However, at this stage, I am fully chaos reduced. So this means that I don't really need to worry too much about having poison reduction. So instead, I've opted for Soul of Gruthkul. Let's have a look at the skill tree. This might have changed since the last time I did it, but it's pretty much the same. I've just gone for a lot of life in ES here. I've gone for some crit and trap nodes and resistance, but I think the thing most of you are probably wondering about is which masteries did I take? So let's go over those quickly. First one is Evasion Mastery. This gives us 25% increased mana reservation efficiency. This is just so that we can squeeze Grace into our build. And then let's look at the other Evasion Mastery over here. 100% increased evasion rating from your body armor. This is possibly something that I should swap over to Cannot Be Stunned if you haven't been hit recently, but I've been using it for a while. My body armor has 1000 evasion, so another 1000 evasion I'm not complaining about that. Perhaps there is some super fine details that we could tweak, but again, at this stage, I've done everything. Like, I don't need to make it perfect because it can do everything. As for Reservation Mastery, 15% increase mana reservation efficiency of skills, allows us to squeeze in our auras. Over here, we've got Physical Mastery, 40% increase physical damage with skills that cost life. Exsanguinate and Seismic Trap cost life, so this is just 40% increased physical damage. As for our Life Mastery, I've gone for the 10% increased max life and the flat 50 max life. Over here, now this is optional. This is me pretending to be a hardcore player, try-harding. I've gone for the Chaos Res and the Ele Res Chaos Res Mastery. You could, if you don't really have issues with your resistances, go for the Corrupted Blood immunity, but this is how I have it set up. Over here, Evasion and Energy Shield Mastery. I've selected +1 ES per 8 evasion on boots. And now this is nice because our boots have 800 evasion. So 1 energy shield per 8 evasion on boots, that's 100 ES just from this 1 point. Now looking at the trap masteries, Summon Skitterbots has 50% increased mana reservation efficiency. This is the only trap mastery that I'm taking. And the reason why is the other ones kind of aren't that good. Traps cannot be damaged. I had that in my original POV before someone pointed out that traps now, I believe, inherently cannot be damaged for 2 seconds after being thrown. So that's kind of a wasted point. And then I think I also had chance to throw additional traps. 5% chance for a point. I don't think we need it really. The one thing that I do want to say though is while leveling, recover 30 life when your trap is triggered by an enemy. That's a really, really good mastery because that means that when it comes to our Ascendancy, we don't need to grab Pyromaniac first because, well, we've basically got a built-in Pyromaniac from Mastery. This allows us to first take Perfect Crime, which is a ton more damage. So while leveling, I do actually take that, but after I get Pyromaniac, I unspec it and just take this one. As for the crit mastery, I've got crit multi against unique enemies. Maybe if you're playing a hardcore version of this, you would take reduced extra damage from crit. And I think that is all. The rest of the tree is pretty self-explanatory, just life and a bunch of evasion and mana reservation and crit. I've got a couple of charges here and Ghost Dance. This just means that when we get hit, we recover a bunch of energy shield, but that's all probably something you've seen if you've been following the build. Going over the Ascendancy, first point we take is going to be Perfect Crime, not Pyromaniac. This just gives us more damage and reduce life cost and chance for traps to trigger an additional time. Then after that, I believe we pick up Born in the Shadows. I think this is like a toss-up. You could go for Pyromaniac while leveling as your second point, which gives you life regen per trap triggered recently, as well as immune to Ignite and Shock. That's a really, really good part of Pyromaniac. Immunity to Ignite and Shock is really big. Born in the Shadows, this is more defensiveness, cannot be blinded, reduced damage taken from blinded enemies, nearby enemies are blinded, and blind enemies on hit. This is just pure defensive and an excellent mod. And then the fourth one we're going to take is Chain Reaction. Cooldown recovery rate for throwing traps. Skills used by traps have 50% increased area of effect, and when your traps trigger, your nearby traps also trigger. This is excellent. Increased cooldown recovery rate for throwing traps. Helps with throwing the Seismic Trap, which has a fairly long cooldown. The cooldown is 2.56 seconds. If we remove that, we can see it's now 3.04 seconds. I don't know how math works in this game. I want to answer a few frequently asked questions. The first one is going to be to do with defenses. If you feel like you're dying a lot, I have an entire video on that, so check the link in the description. I'm not going to go over it again. I've already made that video. However, some people have said they are struggling with their damage and they don't know what they're doing wrong. Well, the main things I've noticed when people have this problem, well, first, be using 2 cold iron points. Secondly, do you have a 6 link? A lot of people who said they don't have enough damage were using a 5 link. Also, their gems were under-leveled, so things you can do is get a 6 link. 6 links are super cheap this league, so you should be able to get one fairly easily. Also, getting a level 21 Seismic Trap is a huge damage boost. A level 21 Seismic Trap is about 1x, and it's completely worth the money, so that's another way to do it. So first thing, 6 link. Second thing, Seismic Trap level 21, and then level up your gems and get quality on them. That's another source of damage. And then big things that you can do for your damage would be getting a +2 on either your Tinkerskin or your Carcass Jack, +2 duration, or +2 trap and mine gems, or +2 AoE. After that, making an amulet like this costs about probably about 3x at the time. It might cost about 4x now, but it's super worth it. Adds a ton of damage. If you have all of these, there's no way your damage isn't enough. If your gems are leveled, if you have a +2 amulet and a +2 chest, you're going to be absolutely killing everything. So I believe that's everything. If I've missed anything, just ask in the comments. I read all the comments and I'll try and respond to you as quickly as possible. TLDR, what do I think of this build? It's awesome. It's super good. Very good single target. It's surprisingly tanky, especially the way I've built it. I've been running tier 16, Scourge, Delirium, Super Juice maps. Sometimes I get wrecked when I overjuice it or don't pay attention to the mods, but overall, I'm not dying. I made it to level 96 without cheating. I didn't use legions. I just played the game and I leveled up. So if you enjoyed the build, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully I've answered everything. I'll catch you in the next video with, I don't know, maybe some more crafting. We'll do some crafting. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay safe. Be sure to like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff. Give me a follow on Twitch. And if you'd like to join our community, we have a Discord. You can see the links for that in the description below. That's it. Take care, everyone. I hope you're having fun with the build. And see you later. Bye.
It's branching, Exile. You're making me nervous.